All over the globe, tourism is vital to the success of many economies. It is a social phenomenon which entails spending time away from home in pursuit of recreation, relaxation and pleasure while making use of the commercial provision of services. It is beneficial to the growth of the economy as it yields potential for societal transformation through employment generation, increases revenue for government, as well as sustains social order, among others. Government and citizens alike have been dedicating a lot of capital towards diversification of the economy, especially in the era of dwindling oil resources. Little wonder that the United Nations World Tourism Organization set aside a day every year to celebrate the World Tourism Day, which is observed globally. This is to create awareness on the importance of tourism socially, culturally, politically and economically, as well as examine the contribution of the sector towards reaching the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, among others. Recently, Ogun State joined the rest of the world to commemorate the World Tourism Day with the aim of awakening the consciousness of the people towards the unsung and largely untapped potentials made possible by the sector for the common good of all. This year's celebration, with the theme Rethinking Tourism, was held at June 12 Cultural Center, Kuto, Abeokuta. The Governor of Ogun State, Prince Dr. Abiodun, represented by his deputy, Engineer Noimon Salako Oyedele, explained that the occasion provided an opportunity to appreciate the contribution of tourism to the continued development of the state.
This day is another opportunity to appreciate and underscore the value, importance, as well as the tremendous contributions of tourism to the sustenance of peace and the continued development of the economies of our respective nations across the world. I therefore say that the theme of this year's celebration, Rethinking Tourism, is very apt and instructive. The theme is aimed at reconsidering different approaches to place tourism as a viable vehicle of development and employment, as the economies around the world continue to improve from the ravaging effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Although the world has settled into this new normal, the impact has not really been fully gained. You will agree with me that the sharp decline in productivity, job creation, and revenue generation in the tourism sector has not been fully restored. It is therefore necessary that all hands must be on deck to bring the glory of the tourism sector back to its rightful place. All stakeholders, including the United Nations World Tourism Organization and governments, must continue to ensure significant progress in making tourism a central driver of green, blue, and digital economies. More importantly, to strengthen the tourism sector with indisputable advantages of job creation, increasing gross domestic product, rural expansion, development, employment, and others.
Governor Abiodun maintained that his administration would continue to recognize the impact of tourism by redefining the approach to it.
Let me emphasize that our administration will continue to recognize the impact of tourism on the socio-economic development of our state. Our administration took a cue from the United Nations World Tourism Organization agenda of 2030 for Sustainable Development Goals. To this end, we have continued to redefine our approach on tourism by harnessing all potential for a clear implementation framework, adequate financing, technology investments, infrastructure, and human resources. We have walked the talk in ensuring sustainable tourism. One of such is the agro-tourism, a growing tourism segment to complement traditional agricultural activities, thereby increasing the income of local communities while enhancing the value of the tourism experience.
The governor further explained that his administration would continue to drive the public-private partnership initiative to develop the different tourist sites in the state.
We are also consolidating on our public-private partnership initiatives for collaboration with the private sector on the development of our tourist sites. In in particular the tourist sites around our coastal areas, with a view to expanding the values of water-based tourism and transportation. This is in furtherance to the tourism development and promotion of national monuments like Ogun Tourist Complex and the Cathedral of St. Paul in NTA Abeokuta. In no time, our people begin to experience these new tourist sites in our dear state.
The Commissioner for Culture and Tourism, Honorable Moturayo Adijat Adeleye Oladapo, while delivering the United Nations World Tourism Secretary General Zurab Pololikashvili's message at the event, explained that there is need to rethink tourism in order to meet the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Growth.
This year, especially, we also recognize that we cannot go back to the old ways of working. We must rethink tourism. The theme for this year is rethinking tourism. As the world opens up again, we must learn the lessons of the pandemic and the associated pause in international travel. In exposing weaknesses, the crisis showed us where we can build more resilience. And in exposing inequalities, it also showed us where we can deliver more fairness. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, along with its 17 Sustainable Development Goals, remain our end goal. However, every part of the sector, from UNWTO and governments at the top down to destinations and small businesses at the bottom, must rethink how we get there. Rethinking one of the world's major economic sectors will not be easy, but we are already well on the way. Crisis has inspired and catalyzed creativity, and the pandemic has accelerated the transformation of work, bringing both challenges as well as enormous opportunities to ensure even more people get to benefit from tourism's restart. We are also making significant progress in making tourism a central driver of the green, the blue, and the digital economies, ensuring growth does not come at the expense of people or planet.
In her own submission, Honorable Adijat Adeleye Oladapo noted that the state is endowed with rich cultural and tourism potentials, and that the ministry is prepared to set an unparalleled standard at transforming and bringing into limelight the tourist sites in the state.
In this celebration, Ogun State has not been left out, particularly during this current administration, which has opened up possibilities of integrated and sustainable tourism development in the state. There is no gainsaying the fact that our dear state is endowed with rich cultural and tourism potentials. There is hardly any type of tourism that do not exist in Ogun State. Potentials which has to a greater extent transformed it into a tourism hub and destination of choice in Nigeria for both residents and foreigners. However, the strategic location of Ogun State as a gateway to other states in Nigeria has endeared it to visitors, tourists, and investors, thereby making it a beehive of tourists in the country. With a vision to set a standard for Ogun State tourism, the state government through the ministry has transformed and brought to limelight either those obscured sites, monuments, and heritages. The first Orthodox hospital in Nigeria, Sacred Heart Hospital, Itesi, Abeokuta, and the second-story building in Nigeria, Ota, have been transformed into befitting national tourism locations. In furtherance of tourism development and promotion, national monuments like Olumoro Tourist Complex and the Cathedral of St. Peter's in Ake, Abeokuta, have also been given facelift to increase the socio-economic value of the site.
She explained that the ministry would continue to explore the public-private partnership mechanism to envision a technology-driven cultural tourism research center.
The ministry will continue to work round the clock to evolve better marketing and promotional strategies that will further encourage more visitors and tourist visits to the various tourist sites across the state. Like ever before, we shall give deserved attention to the development of all-inclusive long and short-term cultural tourism blueprints that will retain gateway states in the pride of place in the Committee of States. Machineries are already set in motion to equally explore the PPP, the public-private partnership, The fact is that the government alone cannot do it. Ogun State is blessed with so many tourist sites that we cannot but call upon good-hearted people, people who have the heart for tourism, for art, to come in and invest in Ogun State, to envision a technology-driven cultural tourism research center for cultural tourism education, training, workshops, exhibition, and performance.
The Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Culture and Tourism, Mr. Olusegun Olautan, said the essence of the day is to focus on rethinking and reimagining, as well as reveal the tourism sector for a different and clearer goals.
This year's theme, Rethinking Tourism, is a call to every one of us to reconsider the tourism sector as the world opens up again after COVID-19 pandemic. According to the Alto Secretary, Sura, the potential of tourism is enormous, and we have a shared responsibility to make sure it is fully realized. It is our shared responsibility as a people in a tourism-friendly society to bring all hands on deck to make better impact in the sector. We can no longer sit back and watch, but get a closer view of how we can contribute positively. In a sense, the tourism sector has always worked for young people, women, and communities. From this year going forward, we are beginning to think of how well the sector can work with them.
Keynote address was delivered by the Chairman, House Committee on Culture and Tourism, Honorable Yusuf Adejuju, represented by Honorable Abiodun Sylvester, member representing Ijebu North Constituency, and Abdulaziz Akinsoya, Director General, Nigeria Tourism Development Corporation.
Of all sectors of the economy, tourism took the worst blow from the COVID-19 pandemic, and this has in turn highlighted the critical need to transform the tourism industry as global tourism slowly recovers. The theme for this year, Rethinking Tourism, deepens the narrative on the relevance of tourism as one of the vital economic sectors globally. It remains the largest employer of labor, providing livelihoods to millions of people, most notably women and youth. It is a factor in the conservation of natural and cultural heritage and curbing urban migration, among others. Tourism's economic and social footprint is greater than that of any economic sector. The opportunities embedded in tourism are enormous. However, to fully utilize the potentials of tourism for economic growth, we also recognize that we cannot revert to the old ways of working. There is an urgent need to reflect and rethink what we do and how we do it.
Inclusiveness of tourism is about creating an environment that can cater for the needs of all, whether we are traveling or staying at home. It is our collective responsibility to ensure that tourism remains a sector of hope, providing opportunities for empowerment and entrepreneurship for people and education. I enjoin all tourism stakeholders to place inclusiveness at the center of their strategies in order to develop a safe, unique, and overwhelming experience for visitors.
Goodwill messages also came from some eminent personalities at the event.
Tourism sites and activities must be accessible locally and internationally, and the people for whom we wish to inspire to undertake tourism must be mobile. In other words, tourism will not flourish if it is difficult or impossible to reach or get to places or activities of interest to the domestic or international community. Tourism will also not flourish if the people whom we wish to avail of our tourist attractions do not have the means or the wherewithal to journey to places of interest to them. I am therefore pleased to inform this gathering that the recently launched Ogun State Transport Policy and Strategic Transportation Master Plan is targeted at providing multimodal access options to all areas of economic activity in Ogun State, including places of tourism activity. All areas, local governments, and senatorial districts in the state are captured in the plan. Examples, of course, include water transportation and rail access to wildlife sites in Ijebu East, and expanded road infrastructure to serve areas of outstanding natural beauty in the local government area in the north, western part of the state. Already, tourism locations in the state capital Abeokuta are benefiting significantly from reliable access to affordable rates offered by the Nigerian Railway Corporation Standard Gauge Railway that connects Lagos to Ibadan via the Wole Soyinka gas station here at Ladoro.
When we are talking about rethinking tourism, I want to give a personal example. Is to build a situation where people can come and want to come back again to see what you have put there. It can happen to you. Children, you can start thinking of it now. Create a situation, innovate, do something that is special that people will like to, because tourists attracts. Tourism is an attraction business. So I am advising now. It is not only going to London and we are talking about local tourism. Create something that people in the area, in your town, will be coming to check.
Lectures were also delivered to mark the day. Presenting the first lecture, titled Water Transport Tourism, Dr. Lalikan Solomon said that water transport is a good alternative to increase the movement of goods and passengers. He opined that there should be a total paradigm shift project in the water transport approach for effective operations.
It's a means of bringing business closer to you. So let's begin to look in that direction. And when we're talking about rethinking in water transport tourism, we mean there's a need for paradigm shift, a thinking that is critical, majorly in management. How do we manage what we have? Within the paradigm, we have four that I want to briefly discuss. The first, I call it stomach. The stomach, that is our economics. What do we have for water that can sustain this stomach? Because without economics, all the workers, whether in federal or in government or individual hospitals, are just there for nothing. You can't even be there because you are there because of your stomach. So the managers, how are you taking care of that establishment when you are looking at the stomach, the economy? How? The second is the heart, and that's the social aspect of life, social aspect of the same water we are talking about. Do you know that we can avail ourselves trouble on the streets inside us by having our party on the river? How many of us realize that? In Lagos, we are doing it already. We have party, we host party on the river. Tanzania has a jet. So with the bar, we put canopy on it, and cars are parked on that badge. So for you to go to that party, a boat must come to the bank of the river to pick you to that venue on the water. It's high time we invest in it. It's high time we invest in that. The water, the sea, is so free. But what are we doing with it? Spain has nothing originally than water. That's seawater. And they made all the art from seawater by producing the purest water then and the salt to supply the world.
Dr. Ibrahim Kukoyi, a lecturer at the Department of Tourism and Hospitality at the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, in his lecture titled Technology and Security, Key Factor to Repositioning Tourism, said the use of technology will speed up operations and make traveling process easier and enjoyable. He further said the success or failure of tourism destination depends on the provision of safe and secured environment.
Technology and security, key factors to repositioning the tourism industry. We need to rethink tourism, as I have already mentioned, as a key game changer
that has helped many developing nations to transform their economy to that of greater nations. Once we are able to get it right in Nigeria's tourism sector, we can be rest assured of a shift of global attention to Nigeria. God has blessed Nigeria with lots of natural and cultural resources, sufficient enough for Nigeria to receive global attention if our destinations are effectively packaged and well marketed. This, however, must be backed by sincere readiness to host international visitors. This readiness is evaluated in two ways. Firstly, what have we put in place to effectively and efficiently host visitors in terms of investment in infrastructure and amenities? And this is where the issue of technology comes in as one thing we can leverage upon to further develop our destination. Secondly, what have we also put in place in terms of security of life and properties of our visitors? Nobody goes to an unsafe or insecure place for relaxation. It is pertinent to mention here that technology is also key as part of what needs to be utilized to ensure adequate security provisions, such that we have, that are now used in the industry. We have the eye contact, voice record, fingerprint technology, to mention but a few in this regard. To this extent, government and investors in the tourism industry must be willing to invest heavily in technology and security if Nigeria is willing to tap from the enormous wealth tourism creates globally.
Jan Stride spoke to some dignitaries at the event, and they brought their minds on the theme.
A very important revenue adder, especially in most of our developed nations. In Nigeria, it is no exception. Nigeria has the potentials of many tourist centers spread across the whole country, not only in Ogun State alone. But I must say that the tourism helps to improve relationship. It facilitates friendship, both among individuals, corporate bodies, and nations too. If Nigeria, and Ogun State in particular, can tap into the tourist centers, the hotels are there as a major stakeholder in the exercise. So it will be a benefit because most tourists coming in are coming with their money. The tourist centers will equally generate money for the state government.
Tourism is a potential, something that we need to look into very well and see how we can make use of it and make sure that it will help the economy.
I think this is something that we need to really talk about because, as you have just said, today being the World Tourism Day, and we need to rethink tourism because of one fact that is missing, is that our economy is facing some challenges and we need to look for other viable ways of bringing back our economy. I want you to look at it from this point. You see people coming to talk of medical tourism and training as tourism. Somebody coming to invite you for a training in Dubai. You want to go to Abuja for a training. You want to go to South Africa for a training. We need to see how this can also be brought back. Because one thing I must tell you, before I return to the state after my education, my other siblings who are also from Nigeria, we are looking at inviting me to come and stay back in Lagos, and which I told them, look, I would prefer to go back to the state and work in my state. Somehow, after I returned there in 5 years, they started coming here and they started seeing the state, Abeokuta and other places in other life. This should no longer be about coming to have our burial for our grandparents and all, but of course deliberately bringing our children to come and participate in what brought us joy when we were in secondary school, universities, those places we ran into in our undies and trying to look at them differently. Today you talk to some of our children, they don't even understand some of these things. So when we rethink tourism, looking at the economic prospect that is attached to tourism, we can thereby bring our economy back on stream.
Rethinking tourism means rethinking and going back to the future, what is supposed to be, refocusing to the future.
Without mincing words, Rethinking tourism is apt at this time of economic crisis. By doing this, tourism would revive the dwindling resources and improve the foreign exchange of the state and the country at large. Ìgbéga ìpínlẹ̀ Ògùn, àjọṣe gbogbo wa ni.